Barley production here in Zimbabwe is mainly done under contractual agreement, where we have the contractor coming to investigate a farmer, looking at their production history, their own endowments, if they manage to invest in their farm, to ascertain whether that farmer is trustworthy and worthy of parting their finances with, to ensure that barley production is done under sustainable, profitable conditions for both the contractor as well as the farmer. Did I mention that at the end of the season, this is one of the major paying crops? Today we are coming to you from PRICABE farm, a farm that is being owned by the First family, and you would find that they are also undertaking barley production as a business amongst other ventures, livestock, cropping. They do have barley under contractual agreements. This and more on agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Stay tuned. Pari zvino ndina vamaposa supervisor pano PRICABE farm vari kuona nezvekurimwa kwewheat as well as barley. Muchaona kuti patinenge chipinda pachirongwa pane zvakanyanyofanana stereki pakati pekurimwa kwewheat nekurimwa kwebarley zviri mufamily imwe chete. Vamaposa, ndingada kuziva kuti barley iyi yakadyarwa rini, variety yacho, uye pahectare maishandisa seed rate ipi?
Okay, tinotenda. Barley yakadyarwa musi wa15 May. Takashandisa rate ye 150 kgs per hectare.
Okay.
And barley inonzi hope.
Okay. Pakuriritira kwamuri kuita mazuva ano pamuzera wairi iyi, ndoziva kuti kune mamwe mablocks akutoita kunge yakuda kuita kunge sekunonooma, but muno matakamira yese ndeye green, history green, iri pamilk dough stage, iri fresh. Mabasa amuri kuita mazuva ano akamira sei? Patatombotenderera tichiti ndandiri kuona kuti papa nekutodiridzwa kwanga kuchiitwa. Mazuva ano muri kubatikira mabasa ipi pa stage ine barley inoi?
Zvakanyanya mazuva ano zvatiri kunyanya kuita kudiridza irrigation nokutarisa maaphids, ndo zvakanyanya zvatiri kunyanya kutarisa munda iyo ino barley idiki iyo ino.
Taona paine mukomana anga achityaira tractor anga ine boom spray ranga riri kupinda nemubarley imomo. Machemicals amuri kushandisa pari zvino ndeapi? Mushonga yamungangotaurawo pari zvino?
Ya, pane mishonga yatiri kushandisa yakafanana na Alice, yakafanana na Lambda inokontrola maaphids nemafungicides zvakangosangana, asi mishonga yacho yakangosiyana siyana.
Okay, ndichipendera nemi vamaposa pakudiridzwa kwakuri kuita pasvondo, target yenyu yemvura munenge muchida mvura yakawanda zvakadii?
Ya, it's like tine chichinja masystem, asi zvatinoita ndezvekuti tichitarisa kuti mbeu yedu pari zvino hatisi kuda kuti irare sezvamunoona yakamira zvakanaka. Saka tinoisa mvura shoma iri pakati nepakati inosvika zvekuma 15-20 mils to 35 mils.
Okay, ndira kutendai zvikuru vamaposa nekuya pachirongwa.
Tinotenda sisi.
I would like to welcome Wendy on our platform where we are looking at barley production in Zimbabwe. She is the head of agronomy SEEDCO, working in Africa in various countries. Wendy, I would like to thank you so much for joining us today. I know that just last week you were in Kenya looking at other commercial enterprises where our farmers here in Africa are undertaking farming and cropping enterprises as a business. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Wadza. It's always a pleasure, and well done for the wonderful work you're doing, showcasing the work that African farmers, Zimbabwean farmers are doing.
Right, Wendy, looking at barley production, you would find that in Zimbabwe, most of the farmers that are undertaking this enterprise, it is being done on the basis of contract farming. Not many farmers, if not any, who are undertaking it on a personal funding level basis. Most are contracted. What could be the reason behind the contract system of barley production?
So that's a very, very pertinent question, because it brings us to the point where our farmers need to know the market first before they establish any crop. So you find that a crop like barley, similar as it may be, and it is in the same family as wheat, but you'd find that in terms of the market, its end use, it then differs with wheat, whereby if you're going to be doing barley production, you need to have a ready market for it under contract, because it's going to go straight into beer brewing. It's not going to be used for confectionaries. It's not going to be used to make bread. It's not going to be used for those who want to make wheat flour. It won't be used in the same vein, the barley flour. So it's very, very important because it speaks to the level of processing that is going to be undertaken in barley that differs with that which is undertaken in wheat. So with barley production, contract farming is something that you need to secure first. And there are different contractors out there who our farmers can employ on, particularly some of the biggest beer brewing companies out there. So our farmers can engage them. They have agronomists who go around. They would come and inspect your field and see your production history and see if you're capable of producing a crop like barley. Because yes, it will be similar to wheat, but because it's a niche crop, they want to make sure that at least you have your production matrix right and they're going to get the value and the return.
Generally looking at what they will be looking for when they visit a farm to ascertain whether it is possible for them to invest in you through their contractual agreement. What normally do these organizations look at when they are looking for a farmer, or if a farmer approaches them, what do they look at to say you are fit, it is possible for us to partner with you? What are they looking for in farmers, those that are looking to invest or partner with farmers in barley production?
The contractors, when they are coming to a farm to inspect, first of all, they look at the resource endowment, which you mentioned, but they also look at the mechanization that the farm has, whereby a farmer who wants maybe to get into barley production needs to have their machinery in place, where if they say, now this is the planting time, because the window is very thin and they want to optimize, they want to make sure that you have the right equipment, be it a planter, a seed drill, be it a Vicon spreader, which if you are going to be broadcasting, the implements should be in place such that you don't have to wait to borrow from so and so that it delays the planting window.
Exactly.
Because it's time sensitive. And with this crop like barley, it is in the field for a shorter window than wheat. So it means that you need to optimize in terms of the window in which you're going to be planting it as well. So they look at the resource endowment in terms of the management that you're going to employ, the nutrition, is it going to be optimum? They look at the mechanization, which is to say, do you have the right implements? Do you even have a sprayer, a boom sprayer of sorts? Even a drone, now there's technology like drones. You can even come in with a drone whereby you can even spray your crop. So they look at such endowment. But most importantly, the management. The management plays a pivotal role. They look at your cropping history. Last year, what did you produce? How many tons did you deliver to GMB? They look at the previous year. Okay, so this year it was a drought year, but how much did you manage to at least produce? So cropping history is very important. So take everything you do seriously because it has an effect on your future cropping programs. So this is what our contractors look at as well. And then they look at critically, particularly looking at barley, just like wheat. We said in Zimbabwe, here it's produced under 100% irrigated conditions, unlike in the East African parts of the countries there where they have rainfall from March up to October. We don't have that luxury. So if they are going to contract you, they want to make sure that you have the irrigation capacity. So just like wheat, similar to wheat, it will require around 400 to around 500 millimeters of water to irrigate a barley crop from establishment up to reaching its maturity stage.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for that. You spoke of irrigation as being one of the cornerstones that are essential when it comes to establishing barley or wheat, given that here in Zimbabwe, we do have our winter season, which is very dry, by the way. Yes. We do not receive any rainfall during that season. And that is where barley, that is where contractors want their farmers to engage and participate in its production. It was a pleasure looking at this in this first segment. There you heard it, viewers. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, viewers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. A lot of farmers are always asking questions. How do I get into barley production? You would find that here in Zimbabwe, it is just a number of serious farmers with a good and proper production history, which speaks for itself, who are participating in barley production. We are coming to you from PRICABE Farm, one of the farms where they've been contracted to produce barley as a crop, given their sensible and proper production history. Now, Zimbabwe, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, WADZANAI MANYORE, so 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with WADZANAI. Make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments and suggestions. They are most welcome to us. Our YouTube channel is Agribusiness with WADZANAI. We have a lot of traffic on our X profile, formerly known as Twitter. That's at Agribusiness 110. On LinkedIn, we have a growing, thriving community where we have discussed discussions and updates on what is taking place in the agricultural fraternity here in Zimbabwe. Our profile there is at WADZANAI Manyore. Wendy, we are here in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you, Wadza.
Yes, looking at the attributes that we have of this variety, not many seed houses in Zimbabwe are producing the varieties, the seed varieties that are required for commercial or sustainable barley production. But when we are looking at the attributes of this variety, what makes it profitable, what makes its production successful and even sustainable with regards to looking at the farmer and the one that is contracting, what makes it profitable as well as sustainable?
Thank you so much for bringing that very important element and question. So we find that in barley production, as we rightfully stated in the first segment, that our farmers need to start with the end game. So they need to start by securing the market. So once they've secured the market, it brings them back now to the choice of seed. And the contractor, the company that they are working with, is the one that then directs them to say, go and get your seed from this particular seed house, which has the right seed that meets our malting attributes, the things that we are going to be using the barley for. So this hop variety is good in the sense that it has been produced. Our farmers have had a lot of experience in producing it, and it also has a good yield potential, whereby if you look at the head with barley, it's quite interesting that the spikelets look a bit smaller than the ones for wheat, but nonetheless the yield level is still quite competitive, where you find that you can get a yield that can range from about 6 to about 8 tons per hectare under optimal management or above with the barley. So this variety is called hop. The other attribute that also comes in is the issue of having a flag leaf, which is quite sizable and large, guided of course by the management employed. So if you have a sizable flag leaf, it also speaks to the productivity of the crop, because the flag leaf acts as the kitchen that is going to sustain the grains that are going to be formed here by the barley. And then the other good trait that we have with hop is the fact that it's quite hardy, it's quite drought hardy, it's quite stress hardy, and it also has a good disease package, where you find that it withstands problematic insect pests and diseases that might come in, particularly looking at diseases that can include your rust, it can include your mildews. It also withstands for a longer period. Nonetheless, if you then come in and scout at a particular stage, particularly because of high heat units and irrigation, you might find a few incidences of maybe a disease that you might need to control. But with hop, it's a good variety, but it is sold specifically to one contractor, who then gives it away to the different farmers who are going to produce it under a contract regulation, whereby they have agreed on the marketing terms, and the farmer is producing and already has the market for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Wendy, looking at this stage that we are in, the only reason why we are speaking of barley production is because when we are taking it to the market, it is the kernel, it is the seed that is required. At this stage, looking at the vulnerabilities of this crop, and I understand that we do have the kernels, we do have the flag leaf, we do have the stem. I know that at this stage, as it is still developing and headed towards senescence, we now have the kernels, they are now visible. Each and every stem now has some kernels.
Yeah.
At this stage, what do farmers have to look out for in terms of protecting the investment, protecting the yield, which are the kernels?
Thank you so much, Wadza. I think I'll take you back a step there, whereby I will hasten to say to our farmers, wheat production as barley production is similar in terms of the agronomic practices employed.
Okay.
Where now you're speaking about the stem, which is why I hasten to say to our farmers, it's important for them to know that plant population plays a pivotal role. And it brings us back to the seed rate again, where in barley, our farmers can use a seed rate of about 80, 100 kgs. Some go as high as 120 or above. But then the higher you increase the seed rate, the higher the risks of the crop etiolating and just growing tall in search of light, and then it will then start lodging. So you find that some farmers, once they have a lush green, luxuriously growing crop which has vigor and a high vegetation at the expense of flowering, they then come in with a growth regulant like Secocel, which is called CCC, or some use even Ethifon, to then just try and regulate, to make sure that it's not just growing tall with the risk of lodging. So, but it starts with then starting with the right seed rate, so that you get optimum plant populations. So that's very, very important in terms of what our farmers should be looking at. And then finding a crop at this stage, you see that lush green as it is, shiny as you can see, is a beautiful thicket, but it comes with a lot of work in terms of your management of weeds, because barley, as is the case with wheat, if there are any weeds, particularly in a field where there was maize, competition is going to be quite high in that crop because they'll be competing and the weed is growing where it's not wanted. So it will compete very, 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 very aggressively. So it's very important to keep your crop weed free and then manage the insect pests and diseases. And at this stage where we are now, to safeguard the kernel, irrigation becomes very important. Where the irrigation schedule should be on point, guided by the soil type. Heavier soils can hold water or moisture for a longer period. But nonetheless, at this stage, you don't need to starve your crop of the required moisture because grain filling is critical. If the moisture is not adequate, you have shriveled grain, which doesn't have weight. Even the falling numbers, even the taste density will not speak to the value that you're looking for.
There you heard it, viewers. We're going to go on a short commercial break. But right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, farmers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Today, we are coming to you from PRICABE Farm, the farm that is owned by the First family, where they are undertaking various cropping enterprises as well as livestock. Now, Wendy, we are here in the third and final segment. Yes. Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Looking at issues surrounding fertilizer application, at the stage that we are at, whereby there's already grain filling, what type of top dressing did they come with, at what rate, and also what is the essence or the importance of coming in with your fertilizers when it is required?
So looking at fertilizers, Wadza, you'd find that it also starts by just having a basic appreciation of your soil type, which speaks to the farmer having done soil analysis to just ascertain in terms of the pH, the nutrient complements, in terms of the macro and the micro elements. Where you find that with barley, it's a bit forgiving in terms of salinity. It will grow in soils that are slightly acidic. Not to say, farmers, that you need to look for acid soils to start growing it, but just to say it's a bit hardier than wheat. And then you find that when you put in your basal fertilizer, be it the blends, now we are talking more about investment in specialty fertilizers like the blends and the cereal blends like 62323 and the other macro elements that might be required at planting. Now, fast forward now to the top dressing stage, you find that the top dressing is not only relevant in terms of growing the vigor or the vegetative stage of the crop, the flag leaf, the stem, even the arms and the spikes, but it also speaks to the quality.
Yes. Because
yield is a function of two things: yield per plant and yield per unit area. But then we're also looking at the qualitative and the quantitative yield. So of course you might get the high quantity of grain that you require per unit area or per area planted, but you still need to speak to the quality. That's where issues to do with the protein content come into play, where even for a crop like wheat, protein content is quite topical. It has to be above a certain mark, albeit 11%. But then if you look at barley, the beer companies who are going to be contracting the farmers have their specifications that they are looking at. If the grade of that barley doesn't meet that specification, it will be downgraded and the farmer might get less money. So fertilizers like your urea then come into play, your ammonium nitrate. Time of application becomes important, because if you miss the time of application window, then the fertilizer might not work to the best of its ability. So we recommend our farmers to come in. If it's barley, they come in and apply their first top dressing, say around day 20, between day 20 day 24, somewhere around that window, and then they come in again maybe at a later stage and apply a second application, guided of course by their soil types. Yes, there are some farmers who apply once, but split application into two is recommended. One application usually for the farmers with clay soils, and then there's an application that might come in at around day 50 and around maybe day 70 there, where now the farmer is saying he's now speaking to the grain quality. They are speaking to the protein content. They are now building the ultimate quality that they get from their barley, knowing rightfully so that is going straight for brewing.
With regards to protecting against quilla birds, what would be your recommendations?
So quilla birds have become a huge problem, particularly in winter wheat and barley production, whereby you find that the numbers in which they travel at, the flocks, they can cause significant yield losses. So it's very important for our farmers to then say, once they've noticed a high infestation of quilla birds, they notify the authorities that include their nearest agricultural extension officer or their nearest agriculture extension office, be it at district, at provincial level, so that they can come in. I know for a fact that the last 2 seasons, the Ministry of Agriculture acquired drones that are supposed to be helping and working for the farmers to be sprayed in such crops as wheat and barley. So you can get assistance through that channel and get more information. And then there are also some times when you might even want to employ on the national parks to come in. But with the contractors, one good thing is that they have dedicated agronomists that are allocated to the people who are going to be growing this contract crop, which is called barley. So those ones will be working step by step with the farmer to make sure that as soon as something is noticed, they jump in and make sure that everyone, the farmer, the contractor, everyone in the value chain benefits in the long run. But there are some times where you can even have some people, you have noticed this, but it's in the process of being rectified or a solution is being sought. You can come in and make some noise in the field, just some scaring noise, so that you can, maybe you're ringing a gong, a vuvuzela, some bird flying kites that can be used. Some use megaphones. So there are different methods. Some even put scarecrows. I don't know how effective that is, but there are some methods that our farmers can use. So by discussing with the agronomists, you can also get more insights on that.
Finally, as we close this episode, Wendy, I want us to touch briefly on issues surrounding veld fires. As we are getting towards maturity, this crop becomes dry and very susceptible to any form of lighting, or even just a small fire can just finish the entire field. Looking at protection against the veld fires, I know that these farmers who are producing barley are already experts too, but producing it is because of through recognition, through their endowments that they would have invested on at a personal level. But looking at the ways in which farmers can mitigate the losses that come through veld fires, what would be your recommendations to the Zimbabwean farming community?
So having done everything, Wadza, imagine you have established such a lush, green and beautiful crop. You have invested, you have put in a lot of resources, only to lose your crop at the last stage just through a veld fire. So we are saying to our farmers, it's very important for us to make sure that we have created enough fire guards that will prevent these fires, these random veld fires, from getting into the barley crop. So one thing that our farmers should take note of is the fact that barley, as is the case with wheat, these are cereals. They fall in the grass family. So as is the case where there is grass, where you just light a match, that is very likely to spread very quickly. So that veld fire, if it goes into the crop, it will definitely spread very quickly. So it's very important for us to have fire guards. Make sure that we are clearing unused land. This is the time to be doing winter plowing or post-winter plowing thereof. Just clearing the land that is surrounding. We don't need unnecessary vegetation, which is posing a risk to our field for fires. So it's very important. And also have on standby, maybe be it at a mechanized farm, equipment that can then come in to stop or just make sure that it holds the veld fire from spreading to other fields in the event that they started. But we are saying no to veld fires. They shouldn't be started at all.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for taking your time and educating our Zimbabwean farming community with regards to barley production, mainly under contractual agreements from organizations that are into beer brewing. It was a pleasure having us today.
Thank you so much, Wadza. It's always a pleasure.
There you heard it, viewers. I would like to thank everyone who joined us today. Earlier on the first segment, we were joined by Mr. Maposa, the farm supervisor here, who was telling us in line with the dates that they established the variety, the seed rate per hectare. And later on, I was joined by Wendy Matashu Madzura, a seasoned agronomist who was educating Zimbabweans in line with barley production. It remains strictly under contractual agreements. She was emphasizing on the importance of investing in machinery, irrigation equipment, as well as generally mechanizing your farm to ensure that when contractors approach you, you have a good production history. From me, your host, WADZANAI MANYORE, I'm also on Instagram. It's at Wadzi110, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.